Hey, Fatheads, welcome to another episode of Sharing Our Pairings. This is Sharing Our Pairings, episode 52, MBombay and Ales. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon. We are broadcast on cigarfederation.com. We're broadcast on Armed Forces Radio Network. Hope everyone in the Armed Forces Radio Network out there is staying safe wherever you are in the world. And, of course, we're picked up on podcasts through iTunes and every device that'll connect to the internet and through the world, and you can even download it if you're not connected to the internet. I'm joined by my co-host and good friend, Robbie Rass. Rob, what's going on, brother?
Good friend.
Yeah.
I got promoted.
I don't think you got promoted.
No, things are good, man. I got into a fight with my sink earlier today, and so that was always an issue. I'm not good with the plumbing tools. I don't understand how people do that for a living. God bless plumbers. But yeah, other than that, things are good, man. Got some rain here in California, and got some good cigars. I'm going way out of my comfort zone on the beers today, and I'm blaming it all on Mel, but we'll get into that in a minute. And yeah, everything's good, man.
Good times. Well, of course, the big headline for tonight's episode is we're joined by none other than Mel Shaw of MBombay Cigars, MBombay Tobacco. What's going on, Mel? Thanks for joining us. Where are you calling in from? Is this Costa Rica?
I'm in Costa Rica right now. I'm at the factory, and want to show off the small infrastructure that we have, and we talk about Quesera.
Now, I was embarrassingly, I've got a review coming up of the Quesera next Tuesday, and unfortunately, I kept calling it the Casara. So, of course, I was corrected after watching you on Cigar Chat last Thursday. It's the Quesera. But I've had the great pleasure of smoking it for the review. Fantastic cigar. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Very, very elegant. So tell us a little bit about the Quesera Quesera. Sorry, there I did it again.
No, that's okay. That's quite all right. I don't blame you for that. It's Quesera, Quesara. There are different pronunciations that it goes by, but it's okay. So MBombay Quesera is a blend of Ecuadorian Connecticut. The wrapper is Ecuadorian Connecticut Desflorado.
And I think we just lost our guest. The joys of connecting from another country. We've certainly run into that in the past with guests. I was about to diss Nicaragua, but honestly, the internet in Nicaragua, man, has been getting better and better.
It's actually pretty solid.
It's
yeah, it's not bad. I mean, we last year when we were down for Cigar Safari, we broadcast a show from down there. And I use the term show loosely. We broadcast from down there.
The Gong Show, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. We were having a good time. We were all drinking and partying. But so actually, and while we're on the topic, we're going to have to bump your Quesera review back because we're doing a group review on that. And it's
nice.
Yeah, it's my fault for not communicating that to you. I didn't realize that you had it on the schedule. So anyway, if you wanted to redo your video and say the name right, you could. I literally, as we started the show, just lit up, and so far so good. The way that Mel has described the cigar, it sounds like it's right in my wheelhouse. So,
I'm sorry, there was some internet connection problem.
That's all right.
It happens.
It is Costa Rica, so you got to bear that with me. I'm sitting near the office, so. Hopefully it'll be okay.
Mel, I will tell you that we can't see you. We can hear you just fine, but we can't see you.
Okay.
So maybe John and I can go over some of the stuff we're pairing while you get your video figured out.
Is it okay now? Can you see me? When you see me, just let me know.
I will. I'll tell you when you pop up. So at Mel's not request, but. There we go. We can see it. Okay, so we'll get into our pairings later then. All right, Mel, keep giving us the spiel on the Quesera here.
All right. So Quesera is the wrapper is from Ecuador. The vintage is 2001. The special treatment that we do with this wrapper and also the fillers and the binders of this particular blend is we age the tobacco in sandalwood and cedar boxes. Let me show you the boxes. So it'll give you a better idea what I'm talking about. And the aging happens in the boxes for at least 3 years after the tobacco is dried. And so these are the cedar and sandalwood boxes. So this side is cedar, and this side is sandalwood. See, this is sandalwood, this is cedar, this is sandalwood again. So it's a hybrid box, what we call. And it happens for around 2 to 3, I would say close to 3 years. And after the tobacco is pulled out, again, after the rolling of the cigars, we sit on the cigars for another year, and that is the special process that we do for the quesera, and that is the flavor, that offness, that floral characteristics that you are getting in the cigar is because of that.
Now, I don't know if it's the power of suggestion. Sorry, John. But as you were saying that, I was retrohaling while you were talking, and I'm thinking it does have a lot of floral notes to it. And I got some more of an herbal type note from the Habano that I posted my review of earlier this week. The Habano is a cigar that I want to revisit, and we'll talk about that later. I do want to revisit that in another size. I'm not much of a Churchill guy, so I'm curious to see how that plays out in the smaller ring gauge. But given the size and shape of these, the Torpedo, this is so far this is a really nice cigar. I mean, John, you've smoked the whole thing already. I haven't. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, a little bit of spoilers for upcoming group review, but the thing that really stood out for me is you think of an Ecuadorian Connecticut, and of course everyone naturally goes, oh, okay, well, it's a light cigar. And what really surprised me and impressed me was you can't, don't judge a book by its cover, don't judge a cigar by its wrapper, because in this case, you're talking a cigar that's definitely in the medium, really medium plus body category, which is remarkable for something with an Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper. I mean, it has a lot of body to it, which like I said, was very surprising, but also very very nice.
Well, when you use the body, we are using a Dominican Ligero for the body for the quesera blend. The Viso and the Seco are Peruvian. Wrapper is from Dominican Republic again, and the binder is Dominican Republic, and the wrapper is Ecuador. So that oomph or that girth of the cigar, the body, which is not overpowering, still like we have to maintain that balance of the flavor and the body. From get-go, like it is our thing of not giving you a pepper bomb or a nicotine bomb. When you smoke an MBombay, the idea is you are enjoying the cigar from beginning to end, completely without getting over sweetness or over dryness or over spiciness or too much of nicotine.
Yeah, I would absolutely say, and again, I don't want to spoil the review because I want our readers to tune into that, but the two words I would absolutely use to describe the quesera is structured and balanced.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can definitely pick up on the balance has become, for me, over the last, I don't know, probably year and a half, has really become kind of a buzzword for me, specifically when it comes to cigars. And I find myself seeking balance. I know it sounds like a very Zen or Jedi thing to say, but it's seeking balance in cigars. I mean, I want something that if it's going to have a lot of sweetness, and I want to balance that out with maybe some earthy notes or some spice. And that term structure, John, that you use is, I think that's equally as important. It's just I don't want something that's just going to blow out one of my senses. I don't want a spice bomb or And some people do. That's just not really my thing. I find myself seeking out cigars that are balanced, and that was one of the main things that I got from the Habano when I smoked it. It was definitely balanced, and it's very, very clear that you guys are working with really high quality tobaccos.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to be doing some pairings here. And Mel, I know when I talked to you about what to pair with the Quesera, you had mentioned some farmhouse ales or something along those lines.
Right.
So that's where I've got 2 farmhouse ales, and I've got 1 hoppy saison, which this is, if the guys who follow Cigar Federation and follow my other site where I do some beer reviews at mixedmash.com, they know that this is way out of my comfort zone. So you're bringing me way out of my comfort zone, man. So hopefully this works out. If not, you're gonna get a strongly worded email.
Okay. No. Well, the reason I recommended a saison or a farmhouse ale was because I want you to concentrate on that zestiness. That zestiness of a farmhouse ale, not also the herbaceous character of it. That coriander, depending upon what brewer you're using, but a typical saison or a farmhouse ale is a summer drink.
Mm-hmm.
They ferment, or they start the production of the beer during the winter months to be consumed in the summer. That was the whole idea of saison. And the lightness or the delicate flavors of MBombay Quesera, the beers would pronounce it more. That is the reason why farmhouse ale, or slightly with a tinge of spiciness. I'm not against IPAs. I love IPAs. When we talk about it, but if you had a Mora, which is a slightly spicier blend, then an IPA would go hand in hand perfect. But when you're smoking Quesera, tone it a bit down. Farmhouse ale should be perfect with that drink, with that cigar.
Yeah, based on and I've got 3 different ones here. 2 from smaller brewers. One that you'll probably recognize, the Boulevard. Tank 7.
Tank 7, yeah.
Yeah, this is a pretty standard,
That's
and that's
standard size.
This is the first time I've had it, and it's actually quite good. Sweeter than I anticipated. Based on the flavors I'm getting from the cigar so far, and having tasted these 3, I think 2 of them are going to pair really well. And I'm curious to see how this first one, because it has kind of a medicinal quality to it that I'm tasting that I didn't really enjoy. But when we do, I'm looking forward to the Mora now. We're going to do a show featuring the Mora as well. And we can whip out some IPAs, John. So we'll do that maybe as we get closer to spring.
Giddy up.
Cool.
Maybe.
So Mel, anything else you want to chime in on? We're going to hop into these pairings, so we can we'll let you go so you can get back to work.
Yeah, definitely. If you guys have any questions, shoot me an email. Bring me on chat, whatever. I'm ready to answer anything. But if you guys want to go ahead and start drinking, without me, it's okay. It's okay. I know I'm too far.
No, well, you're down there. You're working. So we just wanted to just to give us a shout and give us a little. We got to take a quick little peek at the factory and some insight on this cigar. Which so far, the burn is functioning pretty well. It's a little bit spicier than I anticipated, but that's relatively speaking. It's not a spicy cigar by any means, but there's a little more spice in there than I thought. But it's got a lot of nice flavor to it so far, so I'm curious how these pairings are going to go. But Mel, thanks so much, man, for the time you spent with us. I'm sure we'll be in touch again when we do the show with the Mora, and you can maybe sit down. You'll be at your place. You can sit down with an IPA and hang out with us for a bit.
Oh, you bet.
That'd be great.
Oh, you bet.
Thanks, Mel.
Nice meeting you. Take care, buddy. Enjoy.
All right, take care. Safe travels, bud.
Bye-bye.
John, should we hop in? Should we just start jumping into these pairings here?
Yeah, I'll just remind our audience you're tuned into Sharing Our Pairings, episode 52, MBombay and Ales. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon. We're broadcast on cigarfederation.com, broadcast on the Armed Forces Radio Network, and of course, any device that connects to the internet for podcasting. If you want to listen in your car, on your phone, while you're jogging, being healthy, whatever. We're not being healthy because we're smoking and drinking, and that's what we do. So, Rob, it's interesting listening to Mel talk about the what he suggests for pairing because part of the reason I went with, and I've gone in a different direction, I went with a winter ale. And the reason I went with winter ale is because it's kind of it's an ale with low IBUs that's got a little bit of spicy to it, but it's crisp. And you know what, when you were, we were talking back and forth before the show and sort of planning, which we don't normally spend a lot of time, but this time we strategized pretty aggressively before the show, and I was just worried about that Saison Funk kind of running over the Quesera.
You know, I could actually see that happening with the profile that we're working with here, but I think I might have gotten lucky with at least two of these. The first one that I'm going to jump in with, I've read some of the reviews on it, and what they're getting from it and what I'm getting from it are two kind of different things. So I'm curious about the integrity of the bottle, but I mean, it was fine. It opened fine. It poured fine. It's got a good. It's very effervescent. Well, all these are quite effervescent, so I apologize in advance. I'll try to mute every time I burp, but it's going to happen. But no, I'm excited. I mean, I cracked open these three beers, and of course they're all 750 milliliter bottles. They're all size. I opened three wine bottles full of beer, basically. Luckily, they're all pretty low ABUs, or ABV. Not I got ABV and IBUs.
It's already started.
Just jammed them right together there. I've only had a couple of sips, but no, I'm looking forward to these pairings. I think they're going to work out well. I'm curious to see how yours go, because I mean that term winter ale is pretty fluid.
Yeah.
So. A lot of the winter ales that I've had are pretty heavy, so I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I specifically sought out winter ales that I was looking for a particular quality, and I'm cheating because unlike a lot of the shows we do, I've already had the chance to sit down with the cigar and spend some good amount of time with the cigar. And we were talking with Mel before the show, before the Armed Forces Radio Network segment started, but I think for me, the Quesera, again, it's not just your standard Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper cigar, and I kind of put even a Connecticut wrapper that's got a lot of body to it. Okay, well maybe you get into the light plus medium minus category, but this cigar has a lot of body to it, and not in a bad way. I just mean that it's not what you would typically think of as a conservative, normal, traditional Connecticut style cigar. It's got a lot going on, so I think in that way, versus if you just had a traditional Connecticut, there's going to be a lot more options here to pair with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that.
But yeah, let's. I mean, I've been kind of cheating and sipping. First up, we got the Whistler Brewing Company, the Winter Dunkel Limited Edition. This might be a bit of a misstep for me, unfortunately, but I picked it up because the bottle seemed interesting, and big fan of a lot of Whistler's brews. Whistler Brewing Company was established in 1989 in Whistler, British Columbia, Canada. So for Canadian breweries, it goes back quite a ways, especially for a microbrew. This is a 5.0% ABV, and they describe the process of making this beer. They say they start with wheat and caramel malts to give it some chocolate and toffee and chocolate hints, and then they add chocolate to it from Whistler Chocolate Company, and then they add coriander and sweet orange peels with some bitter orange. Now, their suggested pairings are winter desserts such as Black Forest cake, Christmas pudding, and decadent sweets. So I think this is a beer that probably would have been better off paired with a more full-bodied cigar like a Maduro, something in the medium plus to even full category. You can see the color of this. This is definitely much darker than what you would expect out of at least what I would expect out of a winter ale, and certainly out of a Saison. And I've been sipping, and I got to tell you, my initial impressions are, it's like a box of Tic Tacs in an ale, or like it's kind of got Orange Crush meets ale element to it. And I think for me, while that could be interesting, the orange is just, it's way too prominent on the palate here. And it's, I mean, there's lots of coriander too, which I really enjoy, but the orange, I think, is just way too prominent.
Sorry, I just ashed on my keyboard. So,
Oh,
and of course, it's I have one of those little like little silicone things you put over your keyboard
yeah.
To keep ash and whatnot out. And of course, when I have that on, I never ash on the keyboard. And I took it off to clean it, and first thing I did was ash on the keyboard.
Well done.
So apologize for that. Yeah, when you told me it tasted like orange Tic Tacs dropped in an ale, that didn't sound too good. I love me an orange Tic Tac. The problem with the orange Tic Tacs is I can't, like the whole idea for buying mints is so you have them for a while, they're there and you use them. I eat the whole thing, like
Yeah,
right
I
off.
can't stop.
Yeah, they're addictive. They're like Pez for me. I just tear them up. Yeah, Trip says that beer sounds horrid. Trip is actually still at work, by the way, watching the show, tuning in. So Trip, thanks for potentially putting your career online for us. I'm starting out with a beer from Enlightenment Ales called Transcendence American Farmhouse Ale. They've got some artwork on all of their bottles actually, and it's pretty cool. They have a story about the artist on their website, and their website actually didn't have a ton of information on it. Now this beer came to me as part of that Christmas gift pack that I got from Tavor, which I've talked about before. That service, they're shipping beers straight to your house. This was one of the beers that was in my my Christmas packet that I didn't really get around to drinking before Christmas. Pulled it up here on Beer Advocate, which is where I like to go for a lot of information. It's only been reviewed 13 times, or sorry, I beg your pardon, 16 times. So not a ton of reviews on this one, but the score is a 90. Which surprised me because the first few sips I took of this, I did not really enjoy this beer the first few sips I've had. Now, everybody's saying here that they're getting a ton of fruit notes and some tropical fruit and things like that. Now that I'm smoking the cigar, I get a lot more fruit on the nose than I was before. But I don't get a lot of flavor out of it. There was kind of a medicinal kind of aftertaste that I was getting, but that was really about it. There was some of that funk in there, but I wasn't getting much by way of this bright citrus note and these tropical notes that folks were talking about. To give you a little background on Enlightenment Ales, they've been around since 2008, I believe, and let's see where they're based here. They're based in Massachusetts. MA is Massachusetts, right?
I think so. Says the Canadian.
I realized how ironic that was that I was asking you that.
Yeah, because I think it's MY for Maryland and then MA for Massachusetts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Massachusetts. So they've been around for a little while. They've got a handful of beers that they're making on a regular basis. I don't have as much pre-info done on this as John does, which is that's pretty much the norm. I mean, you're always ready to go, and I usually am not. But like I said, I was fighting with my sink this afternoon. But actually, the pairing here really isn't that bad because it's a crisp. I mean, it's pretty effervescent. You can see the foamy head that's sitting on this. It's a crisp ale, so it's almost like a little palate cleanser every time I take a sip and I puff away. It's enhancing the flavors of the cigar a little bit. It's not doing much for the beer, but I mean the pairing, as far as elevating the cigar for me, is not that bad.
And I mean, I think for this pairing, that's kind of what we're going for. And no offense to the breweries or the beer, but we're looking for something to complement the cigar. And I think that's, at least for you, that sounds like that's working out. For me, maybe not so much. And the cigar is excellent. I'm kind of just getting into just about the middle third here, and there's this great creaminess and there's these sort of layers of nuttiness, which I think is coming from the Peruvian tobacco. And then, it's got a little bit of spice, but just a hint, like it's not overpowering any of the other flavors. And then you get that great sort of smooth, creamy Connecticut wrapper influence. And a great cigar, but unfortunately, you talk about oranges, and I mean, orange is just such a powerful fruit. And I think if you had a beer, if you had an ale with a lot of coriander in it, I think that would be really interesting with this cigar because I think the coriander would complement the cigar quite well. But unfortunately, talk about orange, it's just got such a bright, bright, bitter, fruity note to it that it just runs over everything in this cigar. And to be honest, I think the worst thing you could pair, it seems, with a Connecticut wrapper cigar is anything orange based. So I think if you were to have an old fashioned with a lot of orange zest in it, that would not go well with a Connecticut shade wrapper.
Yeah, it's funny when you say coriander. There's a little bit of that, not really in this one. In the next beer that I'm going to try here has some coriander in it. So I'm curious to see how that pairing goes. Again, this one is fine for me. I didn't think too much of the beer when I tasted it, but again, we're taking me way out of my beer comfort zone here. Just some info on the beer itself. I don't even think I went down and talked about this. 6.2% alcohol by volume. It's they do a double dry hopping, blah blah blah, and let's see. So they say what has emerged is a dry, funky, and intensely fruity farmhouse ale that transcends the sum of its parts. And I'm just not getting those fruit notes. I wasn't getting them, before I started the cigar. I'm not getting them now. I can smell them, but I'm just not getting them. So I don't know. It's a bit of a miss just on the beer itself, but the pairing is actually kind of fine because I can't really taste much of the beer. It's almost like drinking seltzer water at this point.
Oh, well. I mean, Todd, going back to your earlier comment about getting information off the website, one of the things I actually found, which is a little bit frustrating for me, was both my first beer and my second beer of the night, neither website had details about these beers on the website. So I actually had to go partially to Beer Advocate and partially to a podcast pub or just a web publication that had some details about these beers because there was just no information on the website. And that's pretty rare for me to reach out. But, we're dealing, at least these first two companies that I've got here, are relatively small breweries in terms of, most of the breweries we deal, even the microbreweries are much, much larger. So no fault against the brewery. It's just looking to find that information. I was definitely drawing a blank, and I had to do some web sleuthing.
Yeah, I did too, especially for this one. And you kind of set me up for it, so I'll just jump right in. This is a beer from Holy Mountain Brewing, and it's called the Seer. And their artwork on their bottles is pretty cool, actually. This is the type of beer that I would buy just based on the label, just because I think it's kind of cool. It is now, how did we settle on saying this? Foie gras?
Foie?
Foie?
I think it's foie gras because it's French.
Okay, so
I should know better as a Canadian, but I don't.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. What are you talking about? It's
awkward.
Foie gras aged hoppy saison or saison. And I actually looked up what a foie gras was because I didn't know. And it's essentially just a larger barrel than they use to age. It's like a larger wine barrel. So John and I were talking about this. What would be the benefit of doing that is you're not necessarily you're having less contact, less surface area contact with the wood. So you're getting less of that flavor is getting imparted in the beer. So I guess it's in essence I want to oak age this just a little bit, and so I put it in a larger barrel so it doesn't impact the flavor quite as much. The idea that it's a hoppy saison is interesting to me. Their website is tough. It seems as though they're basically a brew house, so they have stuff on tap, and that's mainly what they do. They don't have a section that says, at least I couldn't find it. If they do, they may. It's holymountainbrewing.com. Excuse me. I couldn't find an area that says, here's our beers, and click on the Seer and tell me about it. I think what they do, based on the information I'm seeing here, is they make a ton of stuff, but they don't make a ton of it. So I'm looking here, and according to Beer Advocate, they have 75 different beers.
That's a pretty good list.
That's a long list for a smaller brewery. and they do a lot of a lot of saison farmhouse stuff. I see one English porter here, an imperial stout, like I said, a Czech Pilsner, wit beer, goes, imperial IPA, American wild ale, a lot of different. Oh, they have a milk stout. A lot of different things like that. So it seems like they kind of have a bunch of milk stouts actually. It seems like they play around with a bunch of different things and don't make a ton of it. I don't think that they ship too much. But again, this was also part of that holiday gift pack that I got from Tavor. So it's Hoppy Saison brewed with wheat, aged in oak with Brett. It's a 6.5% alcohol by volume. This batch was aged for over 3 months in our Foudre with, I can never say that, Brettanomyces, and then dry hopped, re-fermented and bottled. Having tried all these just before the show, this was the one that I interested me the most. It's very light in color, as you can see, but it's an effervescent. It's almost it's acting like a Pilsner almost in the glass, where it seems like it's constantly bubbling. Yeah. On the nose, you're getting some of that, a lot of fruit, but you're also getting that that Brett, that saison funk that's in there. But it had a little bit of a kick to it from the dry hopping. So I'm curious to see how this pairing's going to go.
Before I talk about my second pairing, I'm just going to remind our audience that you're tuned into Sharing Our Pairings, episode 52, MBombay and Ales. You're tuned into the Cigar Federation Network, broadcasting the Armed Forces Radio Network. Thanks everyone out there who is working hard to keep us safe. Hope you guys are staying safe this winter time, wherever you're stationed in the world. Quick thing before I get into my second beer. I was actually at an early birthday tasting last night that my girlfriend took me to. It was a number of beers paired with different plates of food. So they did 5 different courses and then 5 different beers. And one of the beers that stood out for me, a brewery that I'd never heard of, they're pretty new here. They're called Troubled Monk. And the beer was called the Open Road Brown Ale. Now, I like a good brown ale, but, mostly I drink a brown ale, and I go, yeah, it's a good brown ale. This was probably, by far, by like a 20% margin, the best brown ale I've ever had in my life. And I immediately came out of it going, if I could get a bomber of this or immediately get 2 6-packs or a 12-pack, I would have this in my beer fridge at all times. It was that good. I think I rated it 4.5 stars on Untappd. It was that good. But we're not here to talk about what I had last night. We're here to talk about what I'm having tonight.
Now, wait a second. You said early birthday. Is it your birthday coming up?
Yeah, I'm getting older in exactly, 8 days now? 8 days.
Really? I didn't know that.
Well, getting older, not getting any wiser. No.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my second beer of the night, again, sort of dealing with local breweries here. This is actually one of my favorites I tend to go to. This is from Canmore, Alberta. If you're not familiar with Alberta, Canmore is this wonderful little town situated in the mountains, not too far out of my town here, Calgary. You drive about maybe an hour, depends how fast you're going on the highway, but they have this wonderful brew pub, and it's just off the highway. It's fantastic. I always go there and get a couple pints in the summertime when we're going out hiking or doing any kind of outdoorsy thing. So when I saw this on the shelf, I was like, yeah, that's a natural choice for me. And this is their Alpenglove Winter Ale. A little bit about Grizzly Paw, which, what a great name for a brewery, by the way, Grizzly Paw. They started as a brew pub. They've been open since 1996. They added a microbrewery license in 2007 to start doing their own brewing. And then they actually did an big offsite full facility in 2013. Now, this is a little bit of a heater, a step up. It's 7.5% ABV, only 18 IBUs. They say that for a winter spiced ale, they don't add additional spices or fruits. They just let the natural flavors come from the malts, hops, and yeast, and that's kind of their structure. Now, I'll hold it up here because it is quite dark again. This is sort of way outside the saison. Again, we're dealing almost with a nut brown ale. It's quite dark. But, smelling it, it's definitely got that winter ale nose to it. You get that a little bit of a richer ale, but not to the point where it's a nut brown ale where it's nutty and toasted. I haven't had any sips, but I mean, it smells fantastic, and this is kind of what I had in mind when I was looking at pairs. So I'm gonna take a couple sips here while you talk about how your second pairing is going here.
Well, the beer's not frozen on you yet, so that's good.
Mm.
That's always positive.
It's a wonderful night, actually.
It's always a good thing.
Like
So a little bit, I kind of didn't really talk much about Holy Mountain Brewery as they are. They're located in Seattle, Washington, and one of our Cigar Federation members, Stefan, he lives up there near Seattle. I don't know if he's in Seattle or not. I think he's close to it. It's just Holy Mountain is in Seattle. They're very popular. It's all small batch stuff, which is why they don't have a ton of info on each beer on their site, which is kind of what we alluded to. It's all stuff that's on cask, very limited distribution, which is basically what I thought. So, Stefan, thanks for clearing that up. The pairing's really good, and the beer itself is really good. For me, way out of my comfort zone, like I said, but this is a perfect kind of like spring, summer morning beer for me. Like if I'm down at spring training or out camping or something, this is the kind of beer that I would want to crack open and have, just after breakfast, because it's that kind of day. It's got a little bit more structure to it than I was finding with the Transcendence. It's got that hoppiness that's in there, but relatively speaking, hoppy notes. I'm getting some tart flavors out of it that I wasn't getting before. It's kind of tart right when it hits your tongue. Some really nice citrusy notes are in there as well, which are playing really, really well with the Queso. It's bringing out more spice that I was getting on the Retro Hail, which I'm enjoying. Again, relatively speaking, spice. We're talking about an Ecuadorian Connecticut. It's not going to blow you away, but more spice than I was getting before. Getting some nice creamy texture notes. A little bit of richness is coming out of it as well. Almost like a leathery richness, but not leather. But this pairing is really, really nice right here. I feel like I had the beer beforehand, and I feel like it's kind of taken a couple of steps up. It's bringing out some of those citrus notes, a little bit of tartness, and that dry kind of hoppy finish to it. It's a really nice beer, and this one I will be finishing tonight of my 750 milliliter bottle, which is still full up to right about there. This one will, or I'll try to cork it and see. You throw one of those champagne corkers in there, it usually lasts a couple of days.
So I'm really enjoying this second pairing, certainly much more than the first pairing. What I'm getting off the beer is, and I think the description is quite good, it's really just a more full-bodied ale. It does have some spices, but they're very subtle, and it's the end of the taste. So you get sort of this rich malt, which isn't like a toasted malt. It's not like stepping up to a porter or stepping up to a nut brown ale. It's just a little bit more than a normal ale. You get a lot of body there, kind of fades with a little bit of sweetness, and then you get a little bit of spice at the end. And for me, it's really highlighting the floral notes in the cigar that I was not picking up before. I kind of take a draw of the cigar, I immediately get that Ecuadorian creamy influence from the wrapper, then I get a little bit of sort of sweet nuttiness from the cigar, and then it's finishing with this really nice floral. And when I say floral, I'm not a fan of floral in cigars. In fact, one of the things that when I smoke a Cuban cigar that really turns me off is I have a Cuban cigar and it's quite floral. For me, it's like smoking potpourri. I can't stand that. And here it's more of a kind of a fruity / floral note, so it's subdued. It's just enough there to add just a little bit of character and nuance to round out the flavor map. And for me, this is a good pairing. It's not an amazing pairing, but this is a really good pairing. I'm in my happy place now, much more than the first pairing, I think.
One thing to comment on that floral note that you're talking about. To me, it almost tastes like, or well, I should say, reminds me of a subdued kind of orange blossom.
Oh yeah,
so
okay, I get that.
It's not, when you say orange blossom, that's an intense flavor and an intense smell. I don't mean it in an intense way. So very, very subdued. But it's orange, but it's also got a little bit of that additional floral aspect to it. Because really, you're smelling the flowers, so it's got that a little bit more to it. Almost, maybe more in the vein of honeysuckle. I know we're getting we're going a little overboard here, but these are the things that I'm trying to remember mainly from my childhood. We always had a lot of honeysuckles around the house. But that flavor kind of sticks in my head. Again, not as intense as that, but in that vein of it's floral, but it's a little bit sweet, and it's not too overpowering. But I'm getting a lot of that too, and I'm really digging this pairing, man. Just that I'm getting more creaminess out of the cigar with it, and you guys know me, creamy. Every few puffs I take and a sip or whatever, it kind of builds a little bit. The beer's staying pretty consistent with it. It's tart right up front, with that kind of dry hoppy finish, and some fruit notes in the middle, and some of that spicy that spicy funky ness is in there. Now I got a question for you, John. I was looking at audience questions, and this prompted a question for me. When you're pairing, let's say you're pairing a cigar with a beer, do you kind of go one for one, puff sip, puff sip, puff sip, or do you have kind of a rotation that you do? Like I take 2 puffs and then a sip, or I mean, what do you think? Do you even consciously think about it?
I'm not sure if I do consciously think about it, but it's a good question. I think for me, what it comes down to is body versus body. So as an example, and I'll talk about Connecticut shade because that's what we're smoking tonight. If I'm having a Connecticut shade, my go-to would be root beer or coffee. I mean, those are kind of a no-brainer pairing for me. So if I'm out taking a puff of my cigar, I'm going to have a couple sips of coffee to every puff of the cigar. And I think part of that is I want to keep the smoking experience to a slow rate so that I'm really enjoying and letting the Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper come through. And I think if the thing that you can make a mistake on is smoke too fast, and I think you're going to lose a lot of the nuances of the Ecuadorian Connecticut. Now, the flip side of that is if I'm having a really full-bodied cigar and let's say a stout, I might go one for one. I might take a puff, I might take a sip, and then I might sit and kind of, see how the stout finishes, because you can have sip after sip after sip of a stout, but it's like taking a full-bodied cigar and just going puff, puff, puff. You're going to blow your palate out. So I think, for a more full-bodied experience, I'll take a sip, take a puff, and then sit and kind of let those flavor experiences play off and kind of think about it and then go back. And then if think about whiskey pairings, it's the reverse. I'll take a sip of whiskey and I'll have maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 draws of a cigar over the course of a couple minutes before I go back to the whiskey. And I think a lot of that is just because the whiskey flavors have so much staying power. What do you do typically when you're doing pairing?
It's funny. I was just thinking about it, and I found myself with this particular pairing. I take a sip of the beer, and it's the flavors kind of coat the palate a little bit. So I'd take a quick little puff, not like a double puff or anything, just a quick little, tiny little puff, exhale, let it sit for 30 seconds or so, and then take a full puff. To kind of clear off the palate maybe a little bit, if that makes sense. And I found I was getting more flavor from the cigar on that second puff. But I completely agree with everything that you said. It really depends on, and again, I don't even know if it's something I think about consciously. This is the first time it's really ever occurred to me. But the thicker and heavier the beverage, and the thing that pops into my head is when we were doing the show with that hot chocolate, I had to take a sip of water in between the hot chocolate and the cigar. Otherwise, I wouldn't taste the cigar at all.
Yeah.
So it really just depends on what you're doing. I just found myself doing that tiny little puff and then doing a full puff, about 30 seconds later. And I'd never really thought about it before. But for whatever reason, I was doing that. I don't know why. Anyway, one thing about the MBombay, you guys have all seen the band. These things are pretty freaking epic. It's about 2.5 inches tall. And we talked about it on Cigar Chat. But what you might not know if you haven't smoked them is they've got another band right underneath. When you take the big band off, because you have to when you get about halfway through the cigar, otherwise you're going to start smoking the band too. We've got that little band, just says MBombay. It's got the same kind of pattern in the background, but little stuff like that is always really cool to me, so I thought I'd point it out.
Now, I'm definitely getting on the retrohale, especially now that I'm in the middle third here. I'm getting a lot of citrusy note, or floral note that I was not getting in my review. Spoilers, and the nuts are a lot more pronounced there as well. So it's kind of interesting to have sat down and reviewed the cigar before pairing it and sort of contrast those different experiences. Just a reminder to our audience that you're tuned into Sharing Our Pairings, episode 52, MBombay and Ales. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon, joined by my co-host, Robbie Rass, broadcast around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Yeah, it's interesting to me from the perspective of when I was doing the review, I was kind of writing down things that I might pair this cigar with, and beers weren't really on the radar, to be honest. Of course, my initial go-to, coffee, no-brainer. Root beer, I think root beer in Connecticut, for whatever reason, the spiciness within a root beer, to me, that's a really great compliment to Connecticut. The interesting other thing that I put on there was tea. And I'm not really a tea drinker, but I was like, you know what? Again, matcha, which kind of has this sort of brown rice earthiness to it, might be a really interesting combination. And I think it would be an interesting revisit for me to come back to the Casar in a future episode and maybe throw some teas at it and see how it stands up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, having tasted these first two pairings and how it's impacting the cigar, I don't know that I would want to go with anything much stronger than what I'm drinking now, flavor-wise. No. And I even think like a really dark roast coffee might be too strong. Mm-hmm. In the sense that you're going to lose out on some of this. It still would probably taste very good, but there's nuance that you're going to miss. Jared Garat just had a comment in the chat room here. He says, or it's Grillet. Sorry, I always say it wrong. Jared Grillet, not Garat. I want to make your last name fancy, bro. It's that sandalwood aging has to have plenty of floral type influence, and absolutely it does. And having tasted the Habano, which is I don't believe has the same amount of sandalwood aging. I don't think it has any, to be honest, if memory serves. It didn't have this same floral note. It had what?
Getting loopy.
It had more of an herbal kind of flavor to it, which would be interesting with some tea, I think, with pair the herbal notes up. But this has a much heavier flavor profile than the Habano did, which is really odd. That's odd to me.
That is odd.
Yeah. It's just, it's odd. It's
odd. I can't believe that they leave the tobacco in chests for that long. I mean, you talk about, and we've talked about it in Cigar Chat, we've talked about it on Sharing Our Pairings, tobacco is money. I mean, you're sitting on tobacco bundles for a year. That's money that you've invested in the growing, you've spent on the tobacco, you've spent on the labor to pull the tobacco, get the tobacco prepared. It's not money in the bank because you've spent that money. You're not getting that money back until you roll that into a cigar and then put it on the market. And it might take another 6 months to a year to actually sell that product once it's actually on the market. So it's interesting to me that they, I think he was saying 2 or 3 years in these chests, which is just remarkable. And some of the tobaccos in this cigar, he said, go back to 2001. Like, to me, that's just insane. I can't believe that they can sit on these tobaccos and really give them the time to mature and age and get imparted flavors from the chest. That's really interesting to me.
To be fair, if these tobaccos go back to 2001, I would imagine that they purchased them. They were already
They must have.
They were pretty well aged when they bought them.
They'd have to.
Because I mean, unless I could have misheard or I may be misremembering, like Roger Clemens. I don't think that they were doing this back in 2001. So anyway, I mean, regardless, that stuff is out there. I mean, it's out there for purchase, and you're right. I mean, to sit on these cigars, and they sit in that. In the sandalwood for a long time. You're right. It's just like having a 15-year-old Scotch. I mean, you're sitting on that for a while, man.
Yeah.
You're sitting on it for a while. Do you want to take a couple audience questions here before we get into our last one?
I do, actually. We've got a few of them here. So first up, Jeff Madre. Jeff is a big supporter of the show, asks really good questions, always active in the chat room. Thanks for posting your question, Jeff. He says, what taste characteristics would you say describe a farmhouse ale? Now, I'm going to throw you right under the bus, Rob, because you're not a farmhouse ale saison kind of guy. So what has your experiences been so far tonight?
Well, my experiences tonight and what I would consider a farmhouse ale maybe don't really jibe a little bit, because I've had we'll saison and farmhouse pretty much, the term I think is pretty interchangeable. I'm sure there's some differences and some nuances that I'm not privy to, but I think for the most part they're pretty well interchangeable. For me, you're getting that spicy kind of coriander type flavor to it, and it's a bit more dry. It's got that funk, that Belgian yeast funk. That's what I call it. That Brett funk, if you will, that's in there. Almost musky. But there's also going to be some fruity notes in there as well. As far as comparing it to a beer or another style of beer, I don't really know of one that you could. It's just more of a Belgian style, and there's some. I'm sure there's people who can talk about this more intelligently than I can. One thing that I found about the Tank 7, which is my next beer, is significantly sweeter than any other farmhouse or saison that I've had. Now, granted, I haven't had a ton of them, but this one was a lot sweeter. I did have another one out of the Tavor Christmas pack that I got. Now, I did get the barrel-aged Belgian themed pack, so I got a lot of this stuff because I wanted to kind of take myself out of my comfort zone with these beers. Excuse me. There was a Belgian strong blonde in there that was fantastic.
Yeah.
That I really, really enjoyed. And there was another, they called it a table saison, that was like 4% alcohol. And I drank the whole bottle and was kind of bummed that it was gone. It was from the Commons Brewery. It was pink. It had pink peppercorn in it, which I didn't really taste the pepper, but it had kind of a dry spice to it. So I'd say kind of a dry flavor profile, a dry spice, a little bit of that funk. It's definitely a love it or hate it kind of beer. I think this of all the beers that I've kind of talked to people about and been around folks who tried a bunch of different beers, this one has probably the most polarizing opinion. Either you love it or you hate it. I think that's really where it is. My wife hates it.
I think for me, and you hit the nail on the head when you talk about that funk. I think for me, if you talk about saisons, there's two things that really stand out for me. One is that I immediately get the sense of this fresh bread, not baked bread, but when you're making bread, if you've ever made bread, that yeast smell, there's this yeast funk. It's indescribable. It's like a little bit of bitterness with a little bit of sweetness with a little bit of yeasty funk, and it's indescribable. It's a unique experience to smell that, and it stands out. It's kind of like if you've ever smelled the cologne of tobacco, when that smell is in your brain, it's there forever. Nothing smells quite like it. So to me, and I did many years in the restaurant industry, and I did a lot of prep work, and baking bread was one of it. So for me, a saison, I immediately get that sort of sour, sweet, bready, yeasty character. But the flip side to that is a lot of saisons have different spices or allspice or something to kind of round that out. And those are the two things that really stand out for me in saison. Now, as you said earlier in the show, it's a pretty broad term. You can get a lot of different styles of saison. But if I were to say, what describes a farmhouse or a saison, it's the yeasty funk with a little bit of spice, and then, however they want to do the malt or however they want to make that their own style, that's what they do.
And excuse me, there's some champagne element in there too. They don't taste the same, but there's similar elements where you get that bready yeast that you're talking about. And I was kind of remiss to not mention that. We did talk about the yeast and the funk, but there is that bready kind of note that's in there, and it's akin to with some cigars you can get kind of a doughy flavor out of them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of similar to that.
Especially Belgians, yeah.
Yeah, and they're filling those Belgian triples, man. Woo!
Oh man, it's a meal in a glass.
They're 11%, but I'm feeling it more. It's like, I feel like I'm just bloated after I have one of those. You let out a couple of good burps and you're good to go. But for the most part, they're all pretty dry and spicy, with some of that funk and some citrus. Now the Tank 7 for me is very, very different, much more approachable. Really, that's a lot sweeter.
It's delightful. I'm just going to get to an audience comment and question here before we move on to our last pairing, and comments from Chemstick Cigar Sticks, who I think won a pack on the Thursday Cigar Show.
He
Cigar
did,
Chat.
he did, and actually, Chemsticks, if you're watching, bro, I need your mailing address because you're the one person who I didn't get a mailing address from.
There you go. So I'm glad he commented. So he commented in the Seattle area. Red Hook Brewery is also very noteworthy, and I've been to Seattle a couple times. I'm a big fan of Red Hook. I'm actually we talked about this at length in an earlier sharing our pairings because I had gone down to Seattle with the girlfriend. We hit up a lot of different places, and one of the great members of Cigar Federation took us around to a local brew pub there, and showed us a whole range of beers. And I was in my super happy place. It was great times. But yeah, Red Hook Brewery. Red Hook makes a really nice ale.
Yeah, I've had some of the Red Hook. They actually make their way down to California. Unlike a lot of other Washington breweries, for whatever reason, I have to talk to people who are in other states, maybe on the other side of the country, about getting some stuff that's in Washington. It doesn't make its way down to California for whatever reason. But I get the feeling that California is probably tough to get into, no matter what the hell, no matter what it is you're selling. Yeah. California is tough to get into. But yeah, no, I would love to take a week and go up to Seattle and hang out and check out the beer scene up there for sure.
Well, we've got some Seattle members at the Cigar Federation. They'll be happy to give you a tour, I'm sure. So I'm going to get to Chemstick's question here before we get into our last pairing, and it's an easy one. He says, would you guys consider a hard cider pairing choice with MBombay? And I will answer that because we've done Aaron Loomis from was a guest on our show, and Aaron unfortunately got thrown under the bus with me to do a hard cider pairing, and I can tell you there are probably no cigars in the world that will pair with a hard cider. Hard cider is just it. Even if you get a hard cider that's got more of the citrus element and less of the sweetness, it's just too much. I mean, we're going to be doing a lambic show next week, and I think a lambic would be really interesting with an MBombay cigar. Actually, this cigar might go well. I've kind of been doing some pre-tasting, but there's a couple lambics that I think might go well. But lambics are much more nuanced and subtle. Hard ciders are just a slap in the face of fruit, and it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I haven't, like you said, I wasn't there for that show, so I haven't paired with any hard ciders before. So there is one that I keep seeing at Bevmo, and it's a bourbon hard cider. And it's just called a bourbon hard cider. Now, I'm curious. I never buy it because I think it's probably just going to be awful. But I don't know. Maybe. But I think that I understand where he's coming from because we're talking about kind of a floral flavor, and you kind of match that with some citrus. Yeah, I don't know. And I'm frightened by the lambic show. It scares me.
Just a bit of a spoiler for next week because I have been cheating and having some of the lambics. I had to go back to get a second round. They're actually quite good. They're much more subtle. I was kind of expecting a sour experience where it was just like a slap in the face, and it was much more nuanced, much more effervescent. The flavors were not as in your face. So I've gone from dreading next week's show to maybe looking forward to next week's show. So we'll see how that goes. Before we get into our last pairing, I'll just remind our audience that you are tuned into Sharing Our Pairings. This is episode 52, MBombay and Ales. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon, joined by my co-host, Robbie Raz. We are broadcast on cigarfederation.com and the Armed Forces Radio Network. I'm kind of excited for my last beer. It's it's way outside the realm of winter ales, but I don't care because it's our show and we can do whatever we want. This is from Fernie Brewing Company. Now, if you're a skier, you probably know Fernie. Fernie located in British Columbia. This is their seasonal series Black Mammoth Winter Ale. Now, first of all, of course, all of these are the big 650s because I didn't want to go deep on the six packs, but you've been pairing these sort of light size and straw blonde colors. Look at this thing. I mean, that's not a winter ale. That's my cold dead heart poured into a glass. I mean, that's black as pitch. A little bit about the Fernie Brewing Company, located in Fernie, BC, as I already mentioned. They opened in 2003 in a family barn is where they started their first facility. They relocated to a from ground designed, complete scratch built facility in 2007. This is a heater. It's 8% ABV, 25 IBUs. They use water, malted barley, hops, yeast, and then cocoa and a Seville orange peel, which is interesting. And for pairing, and props to Fernie Brewing Company on their website because it was all fleshed out for me. Great information. They recommend a strong and hearty accompaniment to a cold winter's day. Well, that's perfect. I mean, it's not super cold today, but that's perfect. So I'm going to take some sips here while you talk about your last pairing, Rob.
Cold winter day. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Okay, so I've been teasing this all along. I hadn't really teased it because I think I showed the bottle, but Tank 7 Farmhouse Ale from Boulevard Brewing is my final pairing. It's part of their Smokestack series. Not quite sure what that means. Now, I picked this beer up a while ago, and I picked it up on Jared Grillett's recommendation that Boulevard Brewing is making some really good beers, and Tank 7 was one of his favorites, or the first one that he had, or something to that effect. So that was why I picked it up. And I didn't realize it was Farmhouse Ale until I got it home. And then I looked at it and I thought, damn it, Jared, I'm probably not going to want to drink that. But, Jared's right, man. I'll come back to that more. Boulevard Brewing, they've been around since 1988, but they really kind of brewed their first batch was produced in the fall of 1989, founded by John McDonald in Kansas City. I'm taking this straight from their website, so this is not my words. These are not my words, but in a turn-of-the-century brick building in Kansas City's historic Southwest Boulevard, vintage Bavarian warehouse was installed, and their first batches were produced in the fall of 1989. That November, the first keg of Boulevard Pale Ale was delivered in the back of John's pickup, nice, to a restaurant just a few blocks away. In 2006, a major expansion adjacent to the original building, producing approximately 6,000 barrels per year, a sizable increase, 600,000.
Wow.
A sizable increase from the 6,000. So they've been around since '89, and they've become one of the largest specialty brewers in the Midwest. And I can readily find several different, what I imagine are the core lines. Although I've never seen the Nutcracker Ale, and my wife has a pretty serious Nutcracker collection.
It's so good.
I'm sure there's a lot of jokes in there, but let's just bypass it. And I would like to give that one a shot. But I'm just looking. They've got a handful of beers here. Unfiltered wheat beer, I think, is one of their big ones. Gold medal winner. Based on their website here, they have a ton of information. So thank you to Boulevard Brewing, which they just boulevard.com. They must have bought that website, either spent a lot of money to get it or bought it really, really early. So this is a style. It's a Saison Farmhouse Ale. It's year-round. They had 4-pack bottles, but I picked up the 750 milliliter, and I think it was very reasonably priced, like $6 or $7. 38 IBUs, 8.5%. So this is a big step up, actually. And
it's a big beer.
Yeah, and Jared was saying earlier today when I mentioned that this is one that I was going to have because it's in the pictures that I posted up on SigFed. It'll sneak up on you because this is really, it's easy to drink, man.
Yep. And
it's seeing now, that it's 8.5 is a bit, is a bit of a surprise for me. They've got their sensory profile. It is straw colored, which I'll let you guys be the judge. I mean, it reminds me of something very specific, but I'm not gonna mention what it looks like. If you're listening on the radio, you just kind of have to think about it for yourself. Light to medium bodied beer, earthy, spicy grapefruit aroma, which it definitely has some of that grapefruit and almost like a tropical fruit on the nose. We're running up on time, so I need to tighten it up here. So yeah, they tell me about the hops, and they used no, they actually don't tell me which hops they used. Oh, they do. They used Magnum, Bravo, and Amarillo. They also used some cornflakes in there, some pale malt and malted wheat malts. They've got some food pairings and recipes, all kinds of different stuff here on their website. For me, this, they don't really mention that it's sweet, and maybe it's just in the context of what else I've been tasting, but this is significantly sweeter than the other two beers that I've had. Want to get a couple more sips and curious to see how your pairing is, because I have a feeling that beer is just going to run right over it, but I'm curious.
So first off, I just want to talk about the Tank 7 because that's one of my favorite beers as well. And I was fortunate enough at my local, what do you call it, liquor store, beer store here at Kensington Y Market. One of the guys there, Sean, was nice enough to pour me a tasting because they hadn't tried it, and he poured it, and I had some. And my initial impression was, wow, that's a really easy drinking session ale. And he thought, yeah, I mean, this is really approachable. And then we looked at the bottle and went, this is 8.5%? No way, because it drinks like it's in the low fives, like between 5.4 5.6. It's kind of like when we're drinking the Scotch on our anniversary series, we're drinking a 62% ABV, and you're like, this is not a 62% ABV whiskey. That's what the Tank 7 is to me. It just goes down. Like, I could absolutely pour a Tank 7 stubby and go right after another one and not feel it until I got up and
until it was too late.
Yeah.
No, it's dangerous, man. And it harkens me back to our last show when I was talking about the Lagunitas brown sugar. Very different beer, a very, very different beer. But that was 9 that was almost 10%, and I had no idea. So it can jump up and get you. But this Tank 7 and this pairing, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'll let you talk about yours, and then we'll wrap up.
So I'll just, Chemsticks posted a question. He wants to know where he can send his information. You can email your information to logan@cigarfederation.com. Make sure to send your mailing address.
You know what? Have him send it to me.
Okay, so rob@cigarfederation.com along with your date of birth to confirm your date of birth, and you want to send your full billing address in there, and they'll get that price pack out to you. Thanks very much. So I'm very, very surprised and impressed. I'm drinking this, and when I was pouring it, I'm like, oh, this is going to be like a porter. It's going to run right over the cigar. Don't let the color fool you. It is remarkably balanced and very approachable and not running over the cigar at all, which is quite surprising. I mean, you look at that color and you're like, that's pitcher than black, but it is very, very balanced. It's very in the light plus medium minus category for beer. It's much more nuanced than the first beer with the orange, because I'm getting just a hint of orange at the end, and it's pairing quite well with the cigar, which I was not expecting. I picked it up, and as soon as I looked at the color of it, I thought, well, this is going to be a miss for sure at the end of the show. But this actually goes really well, and it just doesn't have. They haven't toasted the malts. You're not getting a huge amount of malty sweetness. You're not getting a huge amount of coffee. It's a nice, easy drinking ale with a little bit of spices and a little hint of orange as it finishes, and it goes well. I'm shocked, but it goes well.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm not shocked, but this pairing is quite nice. The cigar's running over some of that initial sweetness that I was getting from the Tank 7, so I'm left with some almost. I ashed on my hat.
Nice, well done.
That's awesome. I'm getting some more of that pineapple kind of tropical fruit flavors coming out. Not overpowering, because I think too much of that would not go well with the cigar, but it's just enough to bring out some spicy notes in the cigar. Brings out more spice in the beer as well on the finish. Finish isn't quite as dry as some of the others, so it lingers a little bit longer, which is nice, given the way that these flavors are kind of playing together. It's a stronger beer, and I can definitely feel it in the sense that it's heavier. The flavor profile is heavier, but it's playing really, really nicely with the flavor profile that I'm getting from this MBombay. And I'm enjoying it. It's kind of cutting out some of that sweetness that kind of frightened me a little bit. I don't want to drink anything too sweet with this particular cigar.
Yep.
I just don't feel like that would be. I don't want anything too sweet, and I don't want anything too tart. So these kind of have that underlying earthy. I mean, earthy's not the right term. That underlying kind of spice and yeasty flavors that I think pair really, really well. When Mel suggested, farmhouse and saison, he was right, man.
Yep.
2 out of 3, and I think it's that first beer is just not good. But these two pairings, I would have to say, on the night that Sear pairing from Holy Mountain up there in Seattle is probably my favorite of the night.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to go with the Alpenglow from Grizzly Paw. I think that was exactly what I was hoping to accomplish with a winter ale, with just a little bit more body than a traditional ale and a tiny bit of spiciness to it. It's a great pairing. This Black Mammoth Winter Ale from Fernie is a very close second. It's a different type of pairing, but it works well. It's much more approachable than what it looks. I'll just take another quick audience comment here. Steve Christopher's tuning in. Thanks for tuning into the show, Steve. And he says he's lurking and watching. Just wants to comment. He's really enjoying the show, and he'd love to try the MBombay. Steve, definitely check out the show, because I'm sure we're going to have more giveaways in the future with MBombay. And if you play your cards right, you never know what might find its way in the mail to you in the future.
If you take a look at Cigar Federation as well, there's some some ads for MBombay that are up that are flashing around, and that leads you to another contest. They're doing another giveaway on their website. So if you're looking to try some MBombay, definitely keep us in mind, because we're going to have some in the near future. So
yeah, so I think this is being my second Quesara. I wanted to say Casara again, but Quesara. I really, really enjoy this cigar. Now, you'll have to wait for a group review to see what I scored it, but I'm sure you can tell by the amount I've been waxing poetic about this cigar through the entire show. It is a very, very good cigar. It is much more structured than you would expect out of a traditional Connecticut. It is not at all a traditional Connecticut shade wrapper. This has a lot more body to it. I think that gives it a lot broader range and probably makes it a lot more approachable for cigar smokers out there who maybe don't gravitate towards Connecticut, and the reverse of that, smokers who enjoy Connecticut and maybe want to get into something with a little bit more body. This is a great choice to go from light cigars to something with a little bit more body, and you're not going to get blown away with spice or earth or leather.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it right there. And this is the first one that I've smoked, because I just recently got my hands on these. And like I said, we're definitely going to have a group review coming up here pretty soon. But yeah, this is right in my wheelhouse. It's kind of medium strength, medium body, maybe medium minus on the strength, medium body, but there's a ton of nuance, some creamy notes underneath, some of that herbal, that herbal flavor that's in there, not herbal, floral flavors that are in there. And it's got a nice little spice on the retrohale, which has calmed down as the cigar goes, which, unless you're smoking something that's got a ton of Lajero in it, it's going to happen. But it's a really nice, really balanced cigar. And I haven't had one on a fresh palate, but I do think that a nice, just a creamed coffee, I wouldn't put any sugar in it, but just a creamed coffee would be really, really good with this.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, I think you don't want to go with a dark roast. You want something or an origin that maybe has a little bit of fruit to it, or maybe has a little bit of floral notes to it, not something super dark, super strong, because it is going to run over the cigar. It is a nuanced cigar, and I'm really surprised at the amount of floral that I'm getting out of the cigar now, pairing it, that I was not getting out of the review. So that's really interesting to me. But coming up on our time, so I've really enjoyed the pairing, and I'm glad that Mel had an opportunity to stop by the show and tune in for a bit, join us, and talk a little bit about the process. And I'm sure we'll have him on the future show when we do the Moira.
Moira, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Mel knows his beer, man. He's in his shop. He said like 50 beers or something on tap. I could be way off, but I know he's got a bunch. So. And he was right on with this pairing. I think this is, for a nice spring afternoon, this would be perfect. We're a little bit out of season, but
yeah, a little bit.
But that doesn't mean it's not good.
No, I'm sure that I can pretty much guarantee that at the Circle Bar at the IPCPR 2016 that Mel and I and you will be probably sitting down and having a cigar and a beer or two.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's probably in the future. So thanks very much for Armed Forces Radio Network listeners out there for tuning into our show once again. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments or questions for the show, you can either send them to rob@cigarfederation.com or john@cigarfederation.com. We always appreciate your feedback. Appreciate you guys tuning in and keeping us safe wherever you are stationed in the world. We'll be back next week with some lambic pairings, which will be interesting, curious, different, but it'll be fun. And as we always say on Sharing Our Pairings, make sure to drink better, but drink less. So, Yeah, man. I tuned into the to the Mel show on Cigar Chat. I actually I listened to it in the podcast on the way to work. I find myself now that I'm driving to work every day, listening to a lot of podcasts. I really enjoyed that podcast. It was cool to listen to him talk about the process and all that stuff.
Yeah, he's an energetic guy.
Hmm.
Oh, excuse me. Wow, there is whew,
A lot of effervescence.
yeah, it's. I know that's awful. You can edit that out, but yeah, it's especially with what I mean. These are still. I mean, that's still bubbling. You know, it's
Yeah.
like it really is to me. It's akin to drinking a champagne,
Hmm.
which I love champagne, but the flavor profile is totally different. Although you're still getting that yeastiness, but I'm pleasantly surprised with the way this show went as far as the beers are concerned. I was pretty confident that I was going to enjoy the cigar based on the way that Mel described it to me, and he was right on. I mean, obviously it's his cigar, so he knows how to describe it. And it is this is smack dab in the middle of my wheelhouse. And he sent me a handful of samples, but he might get another email from Rob saying that I want to try some
Daddy
of the
needs more, Mel.
Yeah.
Daddy needs more.
Hook it up. I want to try some of the different sizes, especially in this particular cigar, and in the Habano for sure, because I did enjoy it, and I posted that review on Monday. I think I gave it an 88, which for me was fitting for the cigar, not the Vitola that I smoked, and I put that in my kind of my wrap up segment. Was I would pick up a 5-pack of those in a different Vitola. The price point, even the price point on the Churchill was $11 for it. I smoked that for almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that's right
like
on
you say,
par.
it's tough. I mean, you're either a Churchill smoker or you're not, and I think you and I definitely our Venn diagram overlaps there, where it's Churchill is a really tough cigar to get into. I mean, I enjoy a Churchill, but it's tough to find the time to sit down and smoke for 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Chemsticks just made another comment here, and I did get your email, bro. So we'll make sure that we get those cigars out to you. Mel is, as we said, in Costa Rica, so he'll send them when he gets back. All the other stuff, the prizes should be hitting everybody else pretty soon. I don't know what happened to your original email; it just got lost in the shuffle, I think. He mentioned that the Line and Kugel Summer Shandy might be a nice pairing for this. Have you had the Line and Kugel Summer Shandy, John, or any kind of shandy?
I've not had any shandies at all. It sounds like it's some kind of Irish dance, not a beverage that I should be drinking. Ta ta ta, doing a shandy.
I didn't copy much of that. I don't know if it was my internet that tweaked out or if it was yours.
Oh, it was. I think it was your internet. I said I have not tried a shandy, and then I did a super inappropriate stereotypical. I said it sounds Irish. I should do an Irish shandy. Toot 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 toot.
Well, a shandy, more or less, is, and my wife actually makes. She'll make a shandy, and it's basically like, it's half beer and half like fruit juice in essence.
Oh, okay.
And the it's going to differ between what you're making. That's the recipe that she was using, and she made them with just Bud Light, and it was lemonade or like a raspberry lemonade, and they were. It's as far as beer aspects of that, but it was really refreshing. I mean, we had it. I think we had it at Memorial Day or something. We're barbecuing around the house, and it's a perfect thing. It's really drinkable and enjoyable. I've had the Line and Kugel Summer Shandy. I feel like that might have too much citrus for this, but I like where your head's at. I feel like for me, just going on to some Hefeweizen would be a nice pairing here.
Yeah.
Or just a wit beer, something like that. And I had mentioned before we did this that Allagash White I think might be a nice pairing. And having tried these, and Allagash White is actually a beer that I really do enjoy. I think that might be a really nice pairing here.
You're
well.
probably going to find when we do the lambic show, other than the peach lambic, the lambics are very much in the shandy style. So, but
Yeah.
again, less fruit in your face, so it's a lot more balanced. And again, not really the season for it, but they are very refreshing. One of the shandies I think that I've had, so I'm backpedaling here, is the Stiegel, and it's the Stiegel. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a grapefruit. And I mean, on a hot day, I'll tell you what, it's just the most refreshing thing ever. It just cuts through that heat beautifully, and it's only like 3.25 or something like that. Which a lot of these lambics are quite low in ABV too, so you can have one. You don't feel guilty about having one because it doesn't feel like a beer. It just feels like a fruit juice, like you said.
Absolutely. We should have Logan on the lambic show, and that's one beer that he will drink is a lambic.
Maybe we should.
We should talk to him about it.
We should talk to him about it.
That could be fun. We've done some shows where I've had really low expectations. The chocolate and cheese episode, for example, and that actually turned out okay.
Yeah.
But I have the lowest of low expectations for this, and I'm thinking in my head, what the shit are we going to pair with these? Oh, we're off. Yeah, we already finished. I can say
no,
shit.
we're still live, brother.
I can say shit.
Oh, you can say shit though. Yeah.
But I'm trying to think in my head, what the hell am I going to pair with these? And I'm going to have to lean on you because it sounds like you've done some recon on this. So we'll figure it out. I mean, I've got them sitting right here. I picked up I did the raspberry, the peach, and the cassis. Which the cassis is what is cassis? Ow. Oh, cassis is the black currant. Which that one
that's really good.
That's
really,
the one
really
that I'm most excited about. This is the only brand of lambics I could find.
Since my girlfriend polished off all my lambics and I had to go back to get a second round, I actually found a different lambic. So I'll have a little bit of divergence, a little bit of variety. It's a raspberry lambic from a different company. It actually seems really interesting. So it'll kind of round out the show a little bit better, I think.
Jared just made a funny comment. He said that Churchills require vacation or retirement. And I mean, for each his own, right? I mean, Churchill, that size exists for a reason. People smoke that, and they smoke it on a regular basis. I just can't do it. Mm-hmm. I need, and maybe I'm part of the ADD generation where I need a seriously awesome, complex flavor profile to hold my interest for that long.
That's a long time.
Unless I'm sitting around with some buddies and bullshitting, and then that's different. But I mean, to be able to smoke, and with the Habano, the MBombay Habano, I was able to smoke that whole thing, and I smoked 2, and it held my interest the whole way. So there's something for that. And the only other ones that I can think of that really kind of held my interest were those the Miami cigar, the Danos, when they came out with the limited edition Danos 2015 in the 3 different blends, and those were all in Churchill's. Oh, and the Jekyll. The Jekyll from Tatuaje, their Monster series, when they do the full size, they're all pretty much in Churchill's nowadays. And the Jekyll really held my interest the whole time. So, yeah, I mean, it's got to be the right cigar, I guess, and I've got to be in the right frame of mind to know that, hey, I've got the next 2.5 hours, and I'm not going to do anything else except smoke the cigar.
Yeah. So before we get into the wrap-up where we talk about NFL playoff football, do you want to lead us through some baseball updates? Because I know there's been a bunch of baseball talk lately.
Oh, I could talk for hours. The Giants are pretty much done. They made some big splashes with free agent acquisitions. Jeff Samardzija, starting pitcher, used to be a wide receiver for Notre Dame, and he pitched for the A's and he pitched for the Cubs, and he pitched for the White Sox quite horribly last year, in fact. But then I always like that the stories in the off season after I've had a horrible year. I was tipping my pitches. So I was telling everybody what I was going to throw based on glove movement or whatever. And it's pretty common, actually. Tipping of pitches it sounds like us. We think it was like, oh yeah, whatever, dude. Sure, you were tipping your pitches. No, you just had a shitty year. I mean, it's the smallest. I mean, these guys pick up on everything, especially with all the video work that they do nowadays. Tiniest little things, and they'll pick up on it. And they added Johnny Cueto, who everybody's down on him because he had one bad half season for the Kansas City Royals. Yes, Jared, for your Kansas City Royals, I'm sure you think Johnny Cueto is a horrible pitcher, but you'll forget that he was one of the best pitchers in baseball for like the 6 or 7 years before that. So I'm inclined to think that, and that was in a pitcher's ballpark in Kansas City. So I'm really happy with what the Giants did. They just signed Denard Span to play center field and hit leadoff. And I think, and Vegas agrees with me because I think they're 5-1 to win the World Series. Again, it's an even year, so whatever you think. But there's been a lot of movement in baseball. There's still really, really good players. And we're in the middle of January, and there's really good game changer players who still don't have jobs. Cespedes doesn't have a job. Justin Upton doesn't have a job. And it's kind of amazing that these guys are still out there. And these are guys who are going to hit cleanup for whoever they play for. So it stuns me that they're still available. It's pitchers and catchers report in like 6 weeks, man. I was talking to Patrick from Half Wheel. He and I have a lot in common. Background outside of cigars. He does a lot of baseball work. He does more intense baseball work than I do. But we're at the ballpark a lot, and he actually does some PA announcing for the Arizona Fall League and some spring training stuff. I think for the Rockies. So that's really cool. And he and I were talking. We're ready, man. This is like for a baseball fan. January is like the saddest month because usually all the free agents are signed, and I'm looking at my keepers for my fantasy league, and it's I'm excited, man. And I'm starting to get the emails about, hey, when are you available for these games in April and late March, which, John, you're aware of because it's going to impact our scheduling. So yeah, it's difficult for everybody at SigFed around baseball season, but I love it.
So I'm gonna talk a little bit about football. We definitely called some games. The Chiefs game where they absolutely obliterated the Texans. I did not expect them to that was just, if you're a Texans fan, what a tough, it's enough to get beaten that bad in the regular season, but you get beat that bad in the postseason. That just says everything about whether your team should have been in the playoffs or not.
You just brought it up. I had a question. And more of a statement. Did they belong in the playoffs? There's teams that they were in the playoffs this year, and they showed that they didn't belong there. They didn't belong. They didn't belong. I don't think the Redskins belong in the playoffs. But that's the way it is.
It's just one of those things that's going to probably get discussed every season. This is going to happen. At least all these teams were above 500. We've had seasons where divisional winners were below 500. And, the discussion is always, should another team, should maybe, I don't know, just throwing it out there, maybe the Jets should have been in the playoffs instead of the Texans.
It's tough.
It's tough. It's tough.
It's tough when you look at it from the standpoint of you're only in the playoffs because of the division you were in.
Yep.
And the division is really kind of arbitrary.
Yep.
It's and baseball is the same way. This year going into the baseball playoffs for the NFC or for the NL, the two teams that were playing for the wild card, I felt were significantly better than the Mets. And the Mets ended up in the World Series because they won their division. They didn't have the same record, but the Cubs and the Pirates had the second and third best records in the National League, but since they were the division they were in, they had to play each other a one-game playoff. One of those teams had to go home.
Yep.
It
doesn't seem fair, but it's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is. There's not really, unless you just get rid of divisions and just make an NFC and an AFC and the top 6 or 7 teams or whatever it is, make it. I don't know that that'll ever happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd want that to happen because then you lose that whole, well, this is a division game. We got to get up for it. When the Niners were good a couple of years ago, it's like, oh, they're playing the Rams. Well, the Rams suck, but it's a division game, so they have to win, that kind of thing. It's I don't know.
Yeah. Steelers kind of, once again, sort of the cap on the season they've been having. They backed their way into the playoffs with some questionable plays, some questionable ref calls, some really bad play on both sides of the ball there from the Steelers and the Bengals with some bad hits and some, it's just a mess of a game. And it's just a mess of a game. It didn't play out the way I was expecting, and it changes the entire picture for the FC. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the matchups this weekend. The Seahawks and Vikings game went exactly the way we predicted, where the Seahawks squeaked out a win. And it took the Vikings missing 2 field goals in order to do it. But, we literally called that. We said that's exactly what was going to happen with the Seahawks, and that's exactly what happened with the Seahawks.
Well, I didn't watch the game. I didn't watch any games. but I mean, that was what, like the third coldest game ever played.
Yeah.
And it, based on the score, you could tell. And I feel bad for Blair Walsh because, I mean, yeah, he missed a kick, but he was the only reason they had any points.
Yeah, he put up 3 field goals. I mean, you can't expect much more out of a kicker. A kicker puts up 3 field goals and you lose the game. That's on your offense. That's not on the kicker. You can't expect a kicker to put up 5 field goals and win you a game. That's not if you're expecting that out of your kicker, you better be paying that guy $2.2 million a year.
It's tough because he missed that kick and it was a chip shot. Laces
Wasn't his fault. Yeah.
The laces out, whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of things. He's getting way too much flack. And kickers, that's the life of a kicker.
Yeah.
Either you're the hero or you're the GOAT, no matter what. But there's, my brother-in-law was, he was a kicker. Was he a kicker or a punter? I think he was a kicker for Boise State a long time ago. And I posted up a thing that Nate Burleson came to the defense of Blair Walsh with kind of a nice quote. It's like, dude, just get off his back. And my brother-in-law commented, he said, there's so many things that happen in a kick. I mean, with this, from the snap to, where the snap is caught, to be able to have the time to place the ball correctly with the right tilt, spin it so that, the laces out, that kind of thing. So many things. And we take it for granted that kickers are just going to make kicks. There's an awful lot of moving parts on a play like that.
Yeah.
No matter where he's kicking from.
No matter where he's kicking from. And then, of course, the Redskins had a total collapse, and the Packers remembered how to play football. And
another team that didn't belong in the playoffs.
Another team that didn't belong. Well, I don't feel like either team really belonged in the playoffs, at least the way the Packers are playing in the regular season. I mean, they were having a shit season, and they were playing like a shit team. And, you could argue that there were other teams in the NFC that maybe belonged to. No, I guess there's no other team really in the NFC that belonged there more. It is a bad year for the NFC, but they certainly woke up and trounced the Redskins. So now we have kind of an interesting picture because I called it 3 weeks out, and now we have a different picture. The Chiefs, instead of facing off against the Broncos, who I thought was going to be a real interesting game, have to face the Patriots, who I was kind of marking as the toughest challenge for them all season. What do you make of that game?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Chiefs, to be honest. I mean, they're a good team. I don't know if they're as good as what won 10 or 11 in a row. Mm-hmm. I don't know that they're that good. It's gonna. I don't think the weather is going to be that much of a factor because they're both used to playing in the cold.
Yep.
With a game like this, in a vacuum, I look at the quarterbacks. And I don't know if that's fair or not, or if that's smart or not, but that's what I look at. I look at the quarterbacks, and I just think that Tom Brady's a better quarterback than Alex Smith. I think Alex Smith can manage a game, and he's had a good year. I don't think that this game's even going to be close.
In the other direction, I think this game is going to be very tight. I think this game is going to come down to a stoit. The Patriots, unfortunately, have, or fortunately, depending on whether you hate the Patriots, which I do, they are like on their 5th line of offensive linemen. They have no one to protect Tom Brady, and the Chiefs have been very, very good at getting at the quarterback. So this is the exact kind of game where if the Chiefs can get under Tom Brady, they can get him out of his headspace, they can get him throwing bad passes, and then Alex can manage the game as a game manager. They can squeak out a win, maybe a 3-point win, but they can squeak out a win. And I think this is going to be a game. This is going to be a 3-point game. Regardless of whether the Patriots win or the Chiefs win, I think this is going to be a 3-point game.
Yeah, fair enough. With a game like this, it just depends on, I think, and I use too many cliches. If Tom Brady gets off to a quick start and he's hitting passes, I don't know if Gronk's going to play or not, but if he's hitting, and I think Edelman's going to play, I mean, if he's hitting those guys and he's finding them open and they're moving the ball quick like they can, I don't think Kansas City can do that.
Yep.
But to be fair, I haven't watched enough of either team to have a very intelligent reason as to why one will win or the other. I just go with experience in a game like this, and Tom Brady can do it.
I'm going to go Chiefs upset, just because.
Sure.
Yeah. Saturday evening game, the Packers versus the Cardinals. That'll be a fun game, but the Cardinals are going to win.
I would think so.
Yep.
I would think so. The Cardinals are a good team. They're a balanced team. Excuse me. They're a strong team in like all facets of the game, which is what you want. They can, like we talked about the Panthers earlier this year. They can beat you however they need to beat you.
Yep.
If it's a defensive grinded out, or if it's 45-40, they can do whatever they need to do, and I think the Cardinals can do that too.
The Sunday night or Sunday afternoon game, which really should be the Sunday night game, the Seahawks face off against the Panthers. This is the game that I called last week where I said Seahawks are going to win. They're going to go on to face the Panthers. Panthers. I mean, I don't even think it's going to be close. I think the Seahawks just aren't a complete team. They've been more lucky than good, and the Panthers have been just a great team. They've only lost one game. They're not going to lose this game.
I'm kind of in the other boat. I will never root for the Seahawks. I really dislike their coach. It's hard to dislike Russell Wilson, and I'm a 49er fan. It's hard to dislike Russell Wilson. I like the way that he carries himself, the way that he talks about the game. I caught the end of that game, not the end of it, but like the post-game interviews and stuff. And there was that one play where he's changing the play and the ball was snapped over his head, and he took the blame for it. And it wasn't his fault, not even close. He's changing the play, and it was snapped over his head, but he still managed to get the ball and get it to Lockett and gain yards. Like that, to me, he's a true leader. And I mean, if I had kids and they were playing football and they wanted to be a quarterback, I'd say watch how Russell Wilson plays the game. As much as that pains me to say, I'm really coming around on him, just the way that he carries himself and he plays the game. I think he is the type of quarterback that I would build my franchise around. Absolutely.
So you're going Seahawks?
I don't know. I think it's going to be a really good game. Having the Seahawks, I think they kind of know at this point they're playing with house money, and when you're playing with house money, you're dangerous. That's all. So right. I could see either team winning. If gun to my head, if I had to pick, I'd say the Seahawks.
All right. Well, the NFC championship game, I'm still predicting Panthers Cardinals. The AFC championship game, because the Sunday afternoon game is Steelers versus Broncos. I think the Chiefs had a really good shot at taking down the Broncos. I don't think the Steelers, who again have been more lucky than good all frickin' season, they have no chance. Well, I shouldn't say that. They have a very, very low chance of beating the Broncos. I think the Broncos are going to trounce them. They're going to beat them up something fierce, and you're going to see Broncos versus Chiefs in the AFC Championship game.
Isn't everybody for the Steelers hurt?
Everybody. Every single member of that team is hurt.
Everybody is hurt. But you could say that
You
could say that just about every team at this point. Everybody's dealing with something. But I mean, when you're talking about Antonio Brown might not play, D'Angelo Williams might not play, Ben Roethlisberger might not play. I mean, those are
game changers.
That's your offense that might not play. That's tough. But at the same time, like the Steelers have shown, they can just explode. If they get hot, they can just go nuts. But I don't think they can do that against the Broncos defense. The Broncos defense is that good. I think that this is going to be a little bit closer than you might think. But it's going to be, I think it's the Broncos. I don't think is Peyton Manning just kind of done forever? Or is he playing?
It certainly seems that way. I don't even know if he's been established that he's going to be playing. I have to assume he's going to be playing in a game this big, but who knows at this point?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you.
Cool. Well, thanks very much, everyone who tuned in and stayed tuned in for our entire episode here. It was a bit of a longer one than we normally do. Make sure to check out Cigar Chat tomorrow night with Maya Selva Cigars. It's going to be a really good show. Gabriel's going to be on. Gabriel's always good times. I'll be tuned in for that for sure. And then we'll be back next week. We got Pipe Dummies on Tuesday. And, of course, we're going to be doing our Lambic pairing on Wednesday. So make sure to check it out. And, again, drink better, but drink less.